A box and whisker plot is used to show the spread of a data set. When we plot a box and whisker plot on a number line, we start by finding the minimum and the maximum, and those are used to create our whiskers. Our box consists of our first quartile and our third quartile, and then our median is found in the middle of our box. We can use all of these data points to find the spread of a data set because we can use the minimum and the maximum to find the range, and we can use the first quartile and the third quartile to find the interquartile range. We can also describe the spread of the data using percentages. I notice that my box plot is actually split up into 4 parts. This represents the 4 equal parts of my data set. Each section represents 25% of the data in your data set. So 25% of your data spans from the minimum to the first quartile. Another 25% of your data spans from the first quartile to the median. Another 25% goes from your median to your third quartile. And another 25% goes from your third quartile to your maximum number. I can look at this and I can say, how many numbers or what percentage of numbers in your data set are greater than your median? Since my median is right here, I know that 25% is greater and another 25% is greater, so 50% of the numbers in my data set would be greater than the median. I can also say what percent of numbers in your data set are greater than your third quartile. My third quartile is right here, and there's only one section to the right of my third quartile, so only 25% of my data is greater than my third quartile. If I asked what percent of numbers in your data set are less than your third quartile, there are 3 sections that are less than my third quartile, so that is 25, 50, and 75%. So 75% of the numbers in my data set would be less than my third quartile. So how do we make a box and whisker plot? To make a box and whisker plot, the first thing we have to do is find the 5-number summary of the data set. So let's look at a data set. This shows us the teams and the number of games that they've won throughout the season. To make a box plot, we have to find the 5-number summary, and that summary will include our least value, our greatest value, our median, our lower quartile, and our upper quartile. To help us with this, we know that the first thing, since we're finding the median and the quartiles, the first thing that's going to be best for us to do is to order our numbers from least to greatest. So for this data set, 2 is my least number. Then I have 5, 6, 7. There are 2 8s, and then there is a 10. Now that I have my numbers in order from least to greatest, I can find all of these values. The least value in my data set is 2, and the greatest value in my data set is 10. Now I need to find the median. To find the median, I know that I need to find the middle number, so I'm going to find one number from the front and one from the back until I get to the middle. So 2 and 10, then 5 and 8, then 6 and 8, and I'm left with 7 in the middle. Now, 7 is the median of this data set because it is the only number in the middle. That 7 will split my data into a lower half that does not include 7 because 7 is the median, and an upper half that again does not include that 7. To find my lower quartile, which is my first quartile, and my upper quartile, which is my third quartile, I need to find the medians of these 2 halves. So I would get rid of one number from the front and one number from the back. And for this one, I only have to do that once, and I'm left with 5 in the middle. So 5 is my lower or first quartile. Now I do the same thing with my upper quartile. So I remove one number from the front and one number from the back. And for this one, I'm left with one number in the middle, which is 8. So 8 is my third quartile. Now I'm going to take this and make a box and whisker plot. And the first thing I need to do is have a number line. So I notice that my numbers go from 2 to 10, so I can probably use intervals of 1 here, and I won't have to worry about skipping any numbers. Now I'm just going to plot all of these numbers on my number line. And to do this, I typically just go in order and all I do is put a point. So I'm going to put a point at 2 to represent my least value. Then I'm going to put a point at 10 to represent my greatest value. I'm going to put a point at 7 to represent my median. And I'm going to put a point at 5 to represent my lower quartile. And finally, a point at 8 to represent my upper quartile. Now, if I leave it like this, I've just got a bunch of floating points and not a box and whisker plot. So now I need to actually make my box and whisker plot. I'm going to start with my whiskers. So my whiskers go from my first 2 points in. So from my minimum to my first quartile and my maximum to my third quartile. From there, I can create my box. So I'm going to have a box that goes from my first quartile all the way to my third quartile. And then the number inside the box is my median, so I'm going to put a line to show that that is my median. Now, how do we analyze box and whisker plots? If you look at the box and whisker plot on your screen, it shows the number of eggs laid by a hen every day. So if I want to know the median number of eggs laid, then I'm going to look for the number that's in the middle of my box. So this line is in the middle of my box and it's at 6, so that represents my median. So the hen lays a median of 6 eggs. What is the interquartile range? Well, the interquartile range is the range of numbers or the difference of numbers from the first quartile to the third quartile. So my first quartile is right here, and I know that this number is between 2 and 4, so this number must be 3. My third quartile is right here, which is 8. So to find the interquartile range, I would subtract 8 minus 3, and I would have an interquartile range of 5. Now to find the range, I would take my least number. In this case, it's right here, which is 2. And my greatest number, which is right here, so it's 10. And I would subtract 10 minus 2, and I would get a range of 8. Then I can answer questions about percentages. This question says, for what percent of days did the hen lay more than 8 eggs? Well, let's find 8. 8 is right here. And if I look beyond 8, I see that there's only one section because I remember that each of these sections represents 25% of my data. So from here to here is 25%. From this point to the median is 25%. From the median to my upper quartile is 25%. And from my upper quartile to my maximum is 25%. If I want to know what percent of days the hen laid more than 8 eggs, 8 is here, and there's only one section of 25% above 8. So the hen laid more than 8 eggs 25% of the time. Now let's look at another box and whisker plot. This one shows the number of books that students check out throughout the year. What is the median number of books checked out by a student? Well, again, the median is in the middle of our box, so this is right here, which is 6. What is the interquartile range? Well, to find that, I need to find my lower quartile, which is right here, and that's between 4 and 6, which means that it is at 5. And then our upper quartile, which is right here, at 10. Once I know those 2 points, I will subtract to find the interquartile range. So I will do 10 minus 5, which gives me an interquartile range of 5. And finally, I need to find the range. The range goes from the least number, which in this case is 2, to the greatest number, which is right here between 14 and 16, which means that it's 15. So to find the range, I'm going to subtract 15 minus 2, which gives me a range of 13. Finally, what percent of students check out more than 5 books? Well, 5 is right here. And if I'm looking for more than 5, that's going to the right. Well, there's a section here that's 25%, another section that's 25%, and then a third section that's 25%, which means that in total, there is 75% of students who check out more than 5 books a year.